Hello, my name is Kevin Beaver. I'm an independent information security consultant, writer, and speaker with Atlanta, Georgia-based Principal Logic. In this short webinar, I'm going to share with you some ideas you can use to go about finding the gaps in your information security program so that you can do what it takes to address what's most important and ultimately minimize your business risks. Sound good? Okay, let's keep rolling. Management consultant Peter Drucker once said, "The only event that is inevitable in the life of the leader is the unexpected crisis." As an information security professional, you have to understand this and be willing to do what it takes to minimize the impact on your business when these unexpected crises do arise. Better yet, if you can prevent the unexpected crises from ever taking place to begin with, you're well ahead of the curve. All of your security challenges, your threats, your vulnerabilities, your risks, they're almost always based on one of two things: technical issues or operational issues. Literally every single situation is the same. Something's missing on the technical side of security or something's missing on the operational side of security, and it's often both. And it's almost always operational weaknesses that are facilitating technical weaknesses. This is what I'm seeing in my work, performing security assessments and doing virtual CISO consulting, and it's also backed up by the research that comes out every year, the studies, the reports, and so on, that vendors and other organizations are putting together. So the lack of oversight in one, often both, of these areas is what's creating so many security challenges. But the good news is it's also creating a lot of opportunities to get better. And the gaps are predictable. The ones that I see the most are what you see here: missing and exploitable patches, weak passwords, unprotected files that are scattered about the network. I see a lot of web-related issues that are either unacknowledged or unresolved, a general lack of information, and then also weak incident response plans and procedures. Whatever the gaps may be in your specific situation, they're often brought about by over-reliance on policies, users working against you, making security decisions on your behalf, outside vendors that are doing their own things, creating risks, disagreements with IT, and even executive apathy. That being said, there's an equally important yet often overlooked part of this, which is acknowledging your contribution to the security challenges you face and the security events that are taking place. This is why it's so important to work from the perspective of what I call relentless incrementalism, taking daily steps to get better, and doing that over and over again. So where should you be with your security program in terms of resilience, risk mitigation, and overall balance? It's a tricky question to answer, but it's one that you need to be thinking about. And what I can say is that your security program should be exactly where it needs to be. I'm now going to share with you some ways that you can find the gaps and the opportunities so that you'll know what to focus on moving forward. One thing that I want to point out is that every situation is different. Your unique business needs, executive management's tolerance to risk, and even the industry you work in and the regulatory requirements you must meet will all shape your security program. And again, they will dictate where your security program needs to be. So how can you go about finding the gaps so that you can start making improvements? Well, it requires a unique perspective. What's needed is what's called a beginner's mind. This is a concept that I learned while studying meditation, and it's also an exercise that management consultants use to turn around failing businesses, and I've used it with my clients over the years as well. A beginner's mind is looking at things from a fresh perspective, a clean slate. It's getting rid of your past opinions, your biases, and even the current knowledge you have about security so that you can uncover the gaps and opportunities in your program that you might not otherwise notice. Those of us working in IT and security have good intentions, but we also have blind spots. So with this exercise, you're basically forcing yourself to get out of your own way, to see the forest through the trees. The first step is to understand the difference between facts and problems. There's a universal law that says you cannot change facts, but you can change problems. And applying this to running a security program, you cannot change facts such as the industry in which your business operates, the fact that it's a target for criminal hackers, or even incidents and breaches that have already occurred. But you can change the problems you have, such as weak relationships and the lack of buy-in on the part of executive management, lackluster security controls that are not doing what they need to be doing, and even something as seemingly impossible to deal with, your users who are continually making bad choices. So again, you cannot change facts, but you can change problems, and that's where your attention needs to be, where it's focusing on the problems that your security program faces. And you could even put a positive spin on that and just call them opportunities. So this is the initial thing that you need to be focusing on if you're going to make improvements in your security program. And you want to keep this facts versus problems or facts versus opportunities thing in mind for every decision that you make moving forward, as it's going to help you decide on which things to engage and which things to ignore. The next step is to ask yourself some tough questions. The most important questions are the two that I have listed here. If our security program was perfect in every way, it would have these things. And then, knowing what we now know, what would we have more of? And what would we have less of? For the first question, it could be 1,000 different things. A few examples might be a broad range of security metrics. Maybe it's visibility across your environment from endpoints out to the cloud and everything in between. Perhaps it's an accurate inventory of what's where on the network. It could even be users who truly behave like they are part of your security team. Or it could be something like knowing the things to say no to and then being comfortable doing so. You got to answer this question in the context of your environment and your specific needs, but you should be able to come up with at least a dozen things, if not several dozen things. There's a lot of variety and a lot of opportunity here. So for the second question, knowing what we now know, what would we have more of and less of? It could be more time. It could be more reliable information that you and your team can base your security decisions on. It could be more money to work with, more staff members to help out, even more end user training. Or on the other side of the coin, it could be less putting out of fires. It could be less distraction, less of security getting in the way of doing business. Maybe fewer products to have to manage, fewer outsiders like vendors, auditors and regulators, business partners and clients defining how you manage security. So with these two questions, you're essentially making a bucket list of items that you would love to have in your security program if you were not limited by time, money, or other resources. And these aren't easy questions to answer. You could spend hours, if not days, by yourself or ideally with your colleagues trying to figure out exactly what it is that you need or don't need. So get the right people on board. Just be careful not to be too proud or embarrassed to ask for help. Or when you do ask for help, don't be defensive when people give you their advice. And by doing this exercise, you're letting your critical thinking guide your security initiatives rather than outside influences, at least to the greatest extent possible. You're also establishing goals to document and hold yourself accountable to. Even with these things being programmed into your subconscious mind, you'll know the things that are most important to you, which in turn provides the focal point for most of your security efforts. Finally, you must be action-oriented. Almost any decision that moves you forward is better than no decision at all. And here's what you can do to address that. Step number 1, know what you've got. Step number 2, understand how it's actually at risk. And then step number 3, do something about it. Most organizations are seriously deficient in one or more of these areas. They don't know what's on their network, and therefore they don't know what needs to be protected, or they don't understand their current level of risk because they haven't been performing adequate vulnerability and penetration testing, IT control audits, and information risk assessments. They've gotten caught up in the frenzy around SOC audits and believing that's all that's needed to manage a security program. And on top of it all, they're not taking reasonable steps in order to address the things that matter most in the context of their business and specific situation. Every organization that I've ever consulted with, regardless of the size of the business or the industry that it operated in, has had challenges in these areas. So take the previous two exercises, integrate into this area, and do what you can to take action and prevent the obvious security gaps from facilitating security incidents and breaches in your business. I'll leave you with this. Jim Rohn once said that failure is not a single cataclysmic event. You don't fail overnight. Instead, failure is a few errors in judgment repeated every day. If you're going to change your ways and ultimately your overall security posture and outcomes, you're going to have to change your thinking. You cannot secure the things that you don't acknowledge. Unless and until you're able to dig down and find the security issues that actually matter, the ones that are creating tangible business risks, your security program is not going to be where it needs to be. The way that I look at it is really, any day that you're not learning new things and trying new things is a wasted day. If you find yourself in this situation, you might need to rethink your approach to security oversight. I don't want to trivialize what it takes to run an information security program, but knowing what I now know and seeing what I've seen, I'm confident that doing these exercises and taking a well thought out and measured approach to security, even if it's just a little bit every day, you can and will get to where you need to be. Thanks so much for joining me, and I wish you the best of luck in your security endeavors.